Something interesting.
Okay, well, once upon a time, I once saw a purple elephant.
Hmm.
That purple elephant was holding a red ice cream popsicle thing in his tusk, or in his trunk,
Okay.
and was feeding a giraffe.
Of course he was. All right. Hey, well, thank you guys for joining us again on the Unbroken Ground. This is Paul here with my friend Jim. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're barely making it into April, but we still, for this year, have recorded one podcast a month, and we're, I guess, probably not going to keep that going, but we'll see because Jim works
Maybe.
real hard in the summer, and
Yeah.
and I don't. So
Maybe I'll need like an out. Maybe it'll be like a get me off camp. I gotta be off camp for an hour or two.
yeah, I'm. Or maybe I'll come out to camp. We'll
Yeah.
do recording at camp. That worked out really well. The last time we tried doing that, where
feel
we
like-
recorded the whole thing and then didn't record it because I didn't know how to make the recorder work.
Yeah, I feel like that didn't go so well. But
That was our first ever podcast. That was the first ever Unbroken Ground podcast that was not just me talking. Because
yeah.
then you came and did it here at the house. So
so
yeah.
so this is the good luck spot then,
so far,
because camp is kind of like a
I think we did.
we glitched.
I think he came out and did one in camp though. We did do another one. We did it in Poplar.
We did a second one in
Yeah.
Poplar.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poplar's cool. I like doing stuff in Poplar.
Yeah.
That's where I usually do my interviews or Zoom calls or whatever
I mean,
I have to do.
so it's an option. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll be on. I will come out and we'll do a podcast live from Great Oaks Camp.
I'll have summer staff. Maybe it could be a big thing.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Uh,
We could have I don't know, whatever. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's like forethought and like planning.
Yeah.
We don't do that
We
here.
don't. We are against
This is
that.
not the realm for that.
No, sir. No, sir. That is not
So,
what we do here.
which brings me to you, maybe a would you rather.
Okay, here we go.
Would you rather
Yeah.
have the rest of your life
Mm.
100% scheduled out?
Okay.
Okay.
I know what I'm gonna do. Like schedule out, as in like down to the like minute. Like I know.
Down to the minute.
Okay.
You know what you're gonna do.
But this is if it's the rest of my life, it's also like when I'm gonna die.
Yep.
Okay.
You know when you're gonna die.
Okay.
You know how long you're gonna be in your job.
Okay.
You know when that job ends
Mm-hmm.
and a different job starts.
Okay.
You know all the scheduling things that Google Calendar can keep track of.
Yeah.
You don't know any of the whys.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's one option. Or
So I don't know the why. So I just know that this is gonna happen.
Yep.
So like there's gonna be an event. Like somewhere on the calendar that's like go to
Yeah.
this place, and you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I'm going to that place, but
yeah,
I
so
know that
it's-
I will be
so
at that
it's
place.
exactly like Google
Okay.
Calendar, other
Okay.
than I mean Google Calendar. You can kind of put a description of what's
Yeah.
happening there.
But this is
But
not this is
your brief.
sans
This is your
description.
phone month view of Google Calendar.
You've got events that are blocked out time
Yep.
and places, but
Yeah.
not wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you're going to look at your week, you can see, oh, dinner at home. Oh, we're going out on Friday. That's fun. My job ends in 3 years.
What happens if I don't? Okay. What's the consequence? So, what are the we've? This is I'm really
Okay,
complicating.
hold
this
on.
would you rather.
Let me
'Cause-
go.
okay.
Let me get to the other
All right.
side. Okay? So, you know all of the when everything is going to happen
Okay.
for the rest of your life. You do
All right.
not know any of the whys or
Okay.
hows.
Okay, that's side one.
Okay, side one. Or you know every why from now until the rest of your life, or till your end life. When somebody asks you why, it's never like, well, I don't know. You know that answer.
Oh. Man, Wow. I don't like either one of these.
I know they're both. The bad side of both of these is
I don't want to know why.
Too much of the future.
Yeah, I don't want to know why. Like, because I think we were talking about this a little bit as we were going to dinner and having stuff before the podcast. But like, I like my worldview that assumes most of the time that people are just out doing really nice things and that they don't have nefarious things going on.
Okay.
And so like I think that sometimes for me, like this is my hang up with why, is that if somebody goes, why did that happen? Like sometimes the answer will just be like, well, that's because that person's a bad person. Because that person did some bad things. Like I don't want to know. I just want to assume that like but but I will say, like, I'm just going this past week, went through a situation at work where, like, something happened and we didn't know the why. Because we couldn't be shared, one of those privacy things. And it's like, you just sit there and think about it, right? Like, you focus on the...
Right,
and then I think you come up with probably worse things.
Okay.
So maybe knowing the why is not so bad. But man, think of the guilt that you might have to go through. Like if you say, well, why did that happen? You're like, oh, hey, you remember when you were back here and you did this thing? Mm-hmm. That's why this is the way here.
Right.
2 years into the future, that's why. Like you can kind of go through that with life. You can put some things together. Mm-hmm. I think we protect ourselves a whole lot though too. But man, and so
the drawback would be, I wonder how humble you could possibly be if you knew every why. Because it would take an extreme amount of humility to keep all of that to yourself and not be like, well, yeah, you just did that because you're a terrible person.
Right.
And you just responded like that because now I'm pointing out a sin.
Right.
And now you become this, like, oh, okay, well.
Or look at why, you want to know why all this good stuff is happening? Right here, buddy. Yeah. Look at me. I'm the one that's making this good stuff happen because I know why.
Well, I mean, you would also know the whys of you, too. So, like, you would, we always know those.
Yeah, but even when we do, we know the whys of us. But I think, like I said, we do protect ourselves because we give ourselves a break of
That's true. We do have more grace for ourselves.
I'm not that. I'm bad, but I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
And if you were doing, and I think it would be hard. I kind of said that jokingly, but I do think that it would be hard for you to balance out, unless you had somebody that was counterweighting you to be like, I also know the whys. And let me tell you about the bad things that happened because of the things you did. I know that you enjoy talking about the good things but let me pull you back down to earth. I think, man, I also don't want to know when I'm going to die.
So, I would 100% choose the why. Because the spontaneity of life to me is fun. And I feel like, despite what we just talked about, I feel like because I would also know my personal whys on a deep level, I feel like I'd rather wrestle through that humility piece of trying to, I got to keep that to myself. It's not a right and wrong right now. It's nobody needs to know this why. You just have to. I'd much rather wrestle through that than wrestle through, like, the anxiety of knowing, well, I'm losing my job in 3 days, and I do not understand why. Or, or those tragedies that are going to come up in my life, I'm going to see a block that says whatever, cancer strikes or something, but I won't know the why. Like, I don't. Yeah, I would pick the why over the anxiety of knowing the future.
I think I would go the opposite direction than you for similar reasons.
Okay.
The spontaneity of life, I guess I am less excited about that because I've experienced, I think, more tragedy might be the right word, or just kind of disappointments. Like,
true. I mean, you've had a rough couple of years.
So yeah, and I haven't even had to work. Like, I mean, I've just had to watch my wife live through a whole lot of worse things than I had. But
right.
But even still, like, just the like the like knowing why, I don't know that it would make it any easier. And so there is a part of me that's drawn to the, hey, yeah, in 3 years you're going to be doing something else. Well, you don't know why, but you know that, all right, then I can, if you know the end point of something, then you find it much easier to endure. Even if you don't understand why you have to endure, you can still, there's some to that. And I do think that there's a part of me that really enjoys, or I at least like to swim in the ocean of, yeah, we don't know why that. So like you like when I said similar reasons, I like the kind of the ocean of not knowing versus you like the spontaneity of life. So it's the same thing, opposite side of the coin of
sure.
like,
yeah.
I don't know that I want to just know. Like, like I think I enjoy the deep questions and asking those questions, and if I think there'd be a lack of satisfaction if I just could be like, oh, well, the reason that happened, which is such a fun thing to think about because I've been reading a whole bunch of things for my classes, which are now done. But one of them was like, why do we are coincidences real? Which is pretty impactful because they weren't talking about these things, but I mean, I'm going to bring a faith perspective into that. Like, like we know that our brains automatically, naturally try to create patterns out of life to make I said life really weird.
Yeah. That's all right. I was rolling with it.
Out of life.
Out of life.
Yes. And so
he's alive.
So our brains try to make sense out of life using patterns, using like repetition, because that's, I mean, like, if you see a bear one time and it goes poorly, the next time you see a bear, you want to remember that, hey, that goes poorly, or else you're not going to live very long, right? So our brains do this, and so studies have shown that we make much out of our own things that we see as coincidences, and we downplay other people's things they see as coincidences, and that in the grand scheme of things, other people don't make much of the things that we see as like, oh, that's not just a coincidence, but a meaningful thing. And I think the reason that I bring that up too is like with like even spiritual things, like I think in our spiritual language, culture, Christianity. Wow, I cannot speak tonight. This is gonna be good.
Yeah.
Christianity.
You're gonna keep them one syllable words.
Our following of Jesus. Good Lord. Oh man. I will offer as an excuse. I just spent the last 3 days doing homework for 12 hours a day. My brain is tired, but as we think about like following Jesus, I do think there is like this thing where we have to kind of walk through this faith kind of thing of like, is this a coincidence? Does this have meaning? Does this not have meaning? And are we assigning meaning to things? And then is it meaningful? The things we actually assign meaning to? And so that's why I think like the schedule thing appeals to me, because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that thing. I may not know why, but I know that like there is some comfort in being like, that's where I'm supposed to be. Like that's where I'm gonna be. That's what's gonna happen. Like, and so like there is like, I think when I was younger, I kind of assumed that all things would be good. I mean, it's naive. It's naive. I get it, and it's part of the fact that I lived a pretty blessed life up until the point of where I kind of hit the wall and had some really hard things of life. But I just like, it's just always going to be good. Like God's got me. It's just, and then, as I've gotten into middle age and now I'm old age and ancient and angry and grumpy, I'm like, nah, maybe it's not so good. Like it's not, like it may not seem so good and it may not even be very good. John the Baptist in prison, like that's not in well for him. So there is some comfort in being like, yeah, I've got 5 years.
So if you woke up tomorrow
right,
and you knew the rest of your schedule, like this, boom, just was in your brain.
Yeah.
Would there be any time of wrestling of, is this happening because it's on the schedule, or is this happening because I know it's on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, every day I'd wrestle with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, that's the question of like predestination, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's just, do I have any choice in this? Because that was my other question. I didn't ask it because you're like, let's go to the second one. But what's the consequence? Like, can you change? Like, what's the consequence of like trying to like you're like,
no, it doesn't change.
Like you,
it's. And this is what I'm saying is I think there would be a time period where you would go through learning how that works.
Yeah.
From God's perspective.
Because
both of these, I mean,
yeah,
they're supernatural. I mean, they're unrealistic things that we're talking about. Hello, Callie.
Hi. I was trying to be silent.
That's like a good wife. Good job.
Whoa. I think Callie should be part of this podcast now. Now that she's fuming and stabbing Paul in the.
Wow.
I guess Paul is now out as host. Unfortunately, he is.
I was joking.
I brought you food too.
He has been suffocated.
You brought me food. What'd you bring
me?
me?
My leftovers.
Oh, that's that ended much differently than it started.
All right.
That ended much different than it started. It started with like, hey, I was thinking of you. I brought you some food. Oh, what'd you bring me? Well, I mean, it's just the food I didn't eat. But it's yours.
It is.
It's yours.
For your lunch tomorrow.
It is your lunch.
Oh, thank you.
Don't I always give
so
you
good.
my leftovers?
You're so good to me. You can speak. You don't have to be silent.
Thanks, dear. Where'd you guys go for dinner?
No boot.
No boot.
No boot.
We went to the Kebabji's.
Kebabji's?
Yeah.
Yes, I have to wear a boot at school.
Kick any stools?
I did earlier.
Okay.
How'd that go?
It's a bad idea.
I was trying to show Paul how good my scar looked,
Okay.
and I kicked it with the toe that has the scar. So, yeah, that went well.
All right.
But, yes, I have to wear a boot at school.
Oh, okay.
It's more of for the awareness of the kids.
I see. So it lives at school?
It lives in my car.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I have to drive with this shoe, or a shoe, and then when I get to school, I take the shoe off and put the boot on.
I got you.
So, yeah. So I walk into school in shoes, and then I change into my boot.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's fun.
Okay.
So you're thinking there's an Evan Almighty kind of moment here where
It would have to be on both sides.
You've got the now you have the Noah beard, and you decide to shave it all off, and you shave it all off, and then you turn around and come back to the mirror, and it's there again. Or
well, yeah, I mean, there would be a moment where you realize that regardless of what you do, the calendar is going to be right. And so I feel like there would be a testing of that, of like, I'm going to do everything I can to make not going out to dinner tonight happen.
right.
And then somehow you'd end up going out to dinner.
You would drive in the opposite direction, but then somehow you'd take a right turn,
Right.
and that right turn put you right in like.
Or you'd be sitting on your couch and like whatever. Some people would come over and grab you by the arm and go, "We're going out."
Yeah.
And be like, "Oh yeah, that's fun." And then so you'd realize what's happening. Like even yeah. So I think you just realize how that predestination thing how would happen. And there again, I can't explain it because I don't understand predestination really at all.
Yeah.
But I think there would be a moment of you getting a glimpse of how that actually works. And as far as the why questions, I think you would get a glimpse. I think you would have to wrestle through. I think you would genuinely have to wrestle through how much God cares for his human creation. Because if you knew all the whys, there would be a whole heck of a lot of reasons to be like, why hasn't he just mited us? Which, by the way, is one of my favorite lines of all time. Smite me, O great smiter.
From Bruce Almighty.
From Bruce Almighty, not Evan.
Not
Almighty.
Evan Almighty. But
Bruce Almighty is so much better than Evan Almighty. Sorry.
I don't disagree with you. They both have their unique things to them. Depictions of obviously one getting to be God and the one being Moses. So
Noah, but that's okay.
Noah, yeah. My brain is dead.
Noah.
He
Noah
has
in the
the
ark.
Bible scholarly degree.
Well, I have a master's degree in data science too. I still can't talk. I don't know what, like, my brain is dead, so not much. I'll just put it on the wall. Put another degree on the wall.
Wow.
Woo!
Very expensive piece of paper.
Stay in school,
The
kids.
support from your wife is amazing.
Hey, that's what he
This
did
is
for Helen.
this is such a supportive place. Do you guys want to join us? Come on in, because this is such an encouraging place. Paul has only been killed twice.
Love you, dear.
I'm not dead yet. I love you too. You're my favorite wife.
I'm your only wife.
Still my favorite.
And your least favorite.
Well, we don't have to bring that part up. That's just the favorite part. Sure, I think I think you would see.
So you'd have to wrestle through. I think you would get the God perspective of. You would get some really nasty whys,
Yeah.
but you'd also get some really awesome whys.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that balances out in God's
Right.
like omniscient brain, likeness, or whatever. But it's. I think in both of them you would get a glimpse of something that humans just don't get a glimpse of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's is just part of the being God and not being, because the thing I've been hanging out with sixth graders, fifth and sixth graders on Sunday mornings, and we've been talking about spiritual things, and one of the things we do is let them ask any questions they want to ask. Every now and then we'll just be like, what questions do you have? And of course, we were talking about something, and one of the kids, who probably has older brothers, I know he has older brothers, and probably asked him, or just watched it on YouTube, but they're like, can God make a rock so big that he couldn't lift it? Which is the classic, like, nonsense question that, like, philosophy people ask. And
Sure.
And so I was like, well, that's an illogical, that's a non-logical question, because it's like, can God make a square circle? No. A circle can't be square, so he can't, like, that's just, but as I thought about it, I was like, I think the problem with that question is that it drastically doesn't understand God, because God the Father is not a physical being, so he's not constrained by things like gravity or weight, or so to lift, like, he doesn't work under those same kind of laws. Like, if you asked me, can you make a rock big enough that Jesus can't lift it when he was here humanly on the earth? Yeah. Like, I guarantee you there were like, he didn't just go around being like, all right, I'm gonna pick up that wall now, and like he limited his power. There were definitely things that he was like, he just, like, could now. Could he have?
He walked on water.
He did, but I think that you could, unless there was a. But
to his credit, it was a significant moment.
Right.
And he only did
right.
it.
It wasn't like
he always walked on water.
Like, he wasn't just being like, oh, I'm late again. All right, I'm gonna have to take the water route. This road.
I mean, it's written kind of like that, but I mean, we know Jesus is.
He obviously doesn't
a little bit more intentional than that.
He obviously doesn't do it that much, because the disciples' reaction.
It's true. They were freaked
very,
out.
Very.
But maybe from that point on, they were like, "Hey, can you step on that puddle?" Do you think? How many times do you think he got that in the last 2 years of his life?
He was like, "Man, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have walked on water."
Jeez.
How much water does there need to be, Jesus? Like, how much water?
How much water? If I'm a disciple and Peter's walking next to me and there's a puddle, he's getting a look. Peter. Can
you walk on that one?
You want to step? Just a step, man. That one's just a step. You won't fall in.
But God the Father, as the Spirit, like, he's so far outside the realm of time and space.
Sure.
Like, so far outside that I can't even comprehend what that is, and or how he experiences time and space. And so that blows my mind. And so to think about, like, all the whys, for me, it's definitely I don't know that we'll ever know all the whys, even in heaven. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Job never finds out why he, as far as we know, like when Job asks all these questions, God doesn't go, Job, let me, there's some stuff going on here, bro. Let me just kind of lay out the situation.
Right.
Instead, he's just like, hey, Job, where were you when I created the world? Where were you when I decided how the whole world was going to work? Oh, you weren't there? Oh, okay, cool. Which, it's not, like, super comforting sometimes, but it just illustrates that God is so much bigger, so much better, so much farther away than our perspective, and so there's nothing wrong with necessarily asking questions. And I like to struggle with the why. I think that wrestling with the why is one of the best things you can do spiritually, and you should have questions and doubts. And if you don't, then I think you just haven't experienced enough of life, and the things that life can throw at you. But I go back to that in the end, trusting in what Paul wrote, is that in the end, the things work good for those who love God, and all those things that work together for those who love God, and so I do trust in that, but I don't necessarily, but I don't think that means there won't be messy, ugly, dirty, hurtful, bad things along the way. that we can't understand to see, but know that God takes those things and turns them into good. And so I don't. I still just find it like, with all the arguments, if I had to choose, I'd still think I would say like, I would rather just know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I get it. The why would be rough, but I think the schedule would be rough too. So I don't know.
I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like to know that somebody else's why. Like, because there's so many good things about you and your why, but then you also know your own self's whys and the bad things and the, like, why did that happen or why. But to know other people's, like, to truly know. Like, we can assume. I think we assume a lot. I think
Sure.
we
Yeah.
But to truly know someone's heart and to see the darkness that lies there, I think that would be hard.
I think it would be hard. But as a facilitator, that would be just awesome, because that's what I'm always trying to get to, is trying to uncover whys. I mean, yeah, I say it would be awesome because as a facilitator, as somebody who enjoys guiding conversations and activities and things like that, one of my arch nemesis is self-doubt. Of, did I really see that? Am I interpreting that right? Did I see that move, or did I hear that correctly? Am I communicating this well? Did the group really mean that? Or did the person in the group really say or mean that? Is this the right question? I think all of those can be overcome if I know a why. And I don't. I mean, obviously, I can't say for sure, but I don't think I'm the person, or I have a personality that would see somebody's terrible why and put a stamp of judgment on them because of that. I think I could still see the cross and hope that God can change hearts. I think that's probably why I've landed on the why question, because I feel like it helps. I don't know. I'd rather wrestle through that side of it than, because I feel like also with the schedule thing, I would 100% be 100% of the time trying to disrupt that schedule. Yeah, my brain would live in the
schedule would know.
I see this is on the schedule, but I'm gonna do everything in my power to not make that happen.
Right, but because the schedule knew that you were going to do everything in your power to not make that happen.
I know. It's just always right.
You're playing right into the schedule's hands.
I know.
That's why.
Which is why it would be a consistent. It would be like the Israelites leaving Egypt. It would be a consistent revolution of like, no, this isn't happening. Oh, dang it is happening. This isn't happening. Yes, it is happening. It would be a constant revolution in my brain. I don't think I could live there very well.
I don't know. I think you could live there. You would just live in this state of it. You're not actually following the schedule. You'd convince yourself you weren't actually following the schedule. But if somebody pulled it out and was like, Are you sure you're not following the schedule? Because the schedule says this right here.
Yeah,
You'd
yeah.
be like, nope, I don't.
Yeah.
No schedule controls me.
I mean, it's
Like-
what I would have to do. I would have to ignore it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you would convince yourself that you weren't on schedule, but
Right.
mm,
I genuinely do not know what I would actually do. I mean, I'm sure there would be some kind of learning process that I would go through on both of them.
yeah. Hmm.
We need a sponsor or something, because now, how do we transition out of this?
Hey, we had kebab G's tonight, so if you
Yeah, hey, kebab
if you
G's.
need some Mediterranean food, stop on by Kebab G's.
Yeah, there you go.
Get you some shawarma.
Kebab G's. Send us sponsorship for this video.
Free food.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You can just give us some free food every now and then.
Just every once in a while.
Yeah.
Once a year even would be sweet.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, well, you're talking as
How
though...
was your Easter? Let's go.
Yeah. You're talking as though someone who actually knows how to, like, actually do things like advertisement and or sell a podcast. That's not why I'm doing any of this. So
That's true. I don't even know how many people listen to this, but it doesn't matter.
Easter.
What'd you do for Easter?
Yeah.
That was a week ago.
Yeah. It seems like it was so long ago. My brain is so strung out from doing class. That's about a lot. What I did was class. I read a bunch of articles and I had to write a response online to those articles, and then I had to read 3 other people's responses and write a response to their response. And so, yeah. But here's what I did. For Good Friday, I drove Callie around like I was driving Miss Daisy. She had 5 different doctor's appointments, physical therapy, those type of things. So I would drive her to a doctor's office, and then I would sit in the car or the waiting room. Some of them I went to the waiting room. I went to, oh man, I gotta look this up. I want to call it Senior World, but I don't think that's what the name was.
Senior World?
Yeah.
Like a retirement place?
Well,
I bet there were trampolines.
I don't know what was in there. So
Oh.
Callie had physical therapy to the left of the
Okay.
building, but on the right of the building, I think it was called Senior World. I'm gonna text Callie.
Just a bunch of checkers and.
I think they do like therapy there too, but
Senior World.
Senior. So I got to go outside of Senior World. I did not go into Senior World.
Okay.
So Callie had some therapy, so I went and sat in the waiting room for therapy and read my articles. I'm so old school that I printed my articles out and put them in a little notebook and carried them with me everywhere I went. I
Nice.
had my highlighter that I got from the Dollar Tree, and did that. So that was Friday. Friday evening. We went to a Good Friday service at church. And that was good.
Is it a theater production or is it just a sermon service? kind of thing?
So this year, Richwoods did a bunch of videos for Easter. Some live action kind of like replays of like if you were from the Bible character's perspective. So it started out with Simon the Cyrene, who
Okay.
carried like,
yeah.
but it was that one was not Yes, OSF Senior World. So that's the.
Okay.
So it's called Senior World.
It's called
I
Senior
didn't go
World.
in Senior World, but one day
One day.
I'm gonna see what happens
You're
in
gonna
Senior
see
World.
Okay, that's our hope. See what happens in
Uh,
Senior World. Those of you that are listening,
If you know what goes on in Senior World,
tell us what happens. In
I
Senior
imagine
World.
it's similar to SeaWorld, but with majestic old people jumping through hoops for trainers out of the pool.
Okay.
So this year, so it was it was interesting because it was one of the skit guys. So do you know the skit guys?
No, is that? I'm guessing that's a YouTube thing.
I mean, it's a Christian thing. Like
Okay,
I mean,
whatever.
Christian South. Like you were talking about, you may get to this later. I don't know, but you were talking about like the holy. What was the
Holy Post.
The Holy Post. Yeah.
Podcast. Okay.
So that guy from the South, similar vein. There was a drama group called the Skit Guys that did a lot of the Southern Baptist or Christian conservative Christians, and when I was in Texas, did a lot of the camps and stuff like that. They bring drama. Two
Okay.
guys. Anyway, one of them. Some ways listeners knows who I'm talking about, but anyway, one of them. But he was dressed in regular clothes, so like our videos, like all week had been like people in like ancient, near
okay.
East, like
like the
like-
Moses garb.
yeah,
Never
yeah,
looking
yeah.
Like Moses.
And then so Callie was like, I don't like that. He's in regular clothes. Why is he in regular clothes? So he's just sitting there talking like he's, talking about Jesus'
Sure.
crucifixion, but he's dressed in a polo and shorts. And
Okay.
but anyway, he's one of the skit guys, and so that's how it started.
Is it filmed like a Numa video? Did they go full?
No,
90s?
more like one of those I'm telling my story interviews, like
Oh, okay.
like
Okay.
more deep cuts on the face and up
Okay.
close, like stuff like that. So
Okay.
so that's where it started. Callie would like me to explain that this is Senior World is adult daycare center for elderly, disabled, and cognitively impaired senior citizens, and not like her.
Okay.
She was not going to Senior World. I don't know. I think I made that pretty clear,
True.
but
She
and
was worried that
she
you
was-
were telling the world that she was going.
She
to
was
Senior
going-
World.
she was going to the building next to Senior
Yeah,
World.
yeah. We've covered that, Callie. If you're listening, which you aren't.
And you won't. But yes, so it started off with that. That was kind of like that. It was good. Yeah, I mean, they do drama good. So the skit guys are good at drama. So I bet if I showed you a skit, you'd know who they were. But
Okay.
they are on YouTube too. But anyway, he started that, and then we did some praise and worship, did some singing, and then. The emphasis this year was the day of silence. So that period in between Jesus' death on the cross and his resurrection, that Saturday, that full day of silence, and just really like pressing into that. So we left with thinking about that, and the next day. I went and hung out with the 5th and 6th grade, a couple of 5th and 6th graders for an hour to do prayer. We did a prayer walk around the church 7 times, like in a reference to the town of Jericho, and prayed about some things for the church. And then Easter came, and we hung out. We did Easter. It was real busy. Callie served. And then we went to Taco Bell,
Okay.
and that was Easter.
All right.
And then I had Monday off because Callie had 5 more appointments that I drove her to on Monday.
Oh, nice.
So that was
That was your Easter.
Easter. Lots of, and the Saturday in between, in between the prayer, I did a lot of homework. Because
Okay.
my in case you haven't heard and you don't know, my semester ended last night at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
and I turned in all my, I'm done. So that was also Easter. Easter was
Last night at 11 p.m.
Yeah, that too.
11 a.m.
Yeah, 11 a.m. would be in the morning, and
Would be
not
weird.
that would be
It ended last night.
yeah
at 11
last night
a.m.
at 11 a.m. Well, you'd know the why if you just had that power.
It's true. I do know the why. I
Yeah.
just don't. I'm humble enough to not just flaunt it out there for everybody to know.
Easily, this is probably not gonna be one of my worst podcasts because I do know that I recorded some podcasts with myself where I was literally falling asleep because I was so tired. But I was like, I've got to talk.
I've got to do something.
So this won't be the worst one, but it's gonna be up there because
It'll
my
be
brain
quick.
is
That's all right.
terrible.
That's all right.
But all right, well, that's my
doing
Easter.
well so far.
I mean,
I think we're doing well so far.
You're doing great. I can't say words. So,
I mean, words aren't that important on a audio podcast.
you're right. The emotions that are conveyed are the
Right.
best medium.
As long as people are getting the spirit of what you're saying.
I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid
And-
that they are getting the
and
spirit.
also-
they,
It's up to their interpretation. Like, who cares?
no one, only one person, two people has ever talked to me about anything on the podcast. You've had more people talk to you about my podcast.
I got a text.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a text out of nowhere, and it threw me off because I was like, "What are we talking about right now?"
But shout out to Jeremy Mielek. He listens to it. He listens to the whole thing, in bunches.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so he has talked to me about some stuff on there. But other than that, I've never received an email or
any kind of
any
acknowledgement.
message of like.
Yeah.
But there are computers. Probably, maybe, and maybe people too that are listening. I get a report that says, somewhere between 13 and 20 people listen to the podcast over the month. So
Maybe that's how we got to get. So we got to get AI and all the AI bots to listen to the article, and maybe that pushes the numbers up.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you know how to do that, link a bunch of AI people or bots to this podcast so that they just constantly listen to it, so Paul gets paid.
yeah, 100%. Do that. There's no way that the world would end because the AI
Yeah.
bots were trained by us.
I have no idea what we're talking about anymore.
How was your Easter, Jim? That's what we're talking about.
Easter.
Yeah.
I went to Wisconsin. Rebecca had to work because she works for a university, a state university, so they don't even acknowledge the fact that Easter is existing. And so her and I went up, or Ember and Hannah went up Thursday, I believe. And then Rebecca and I went up Saturday morning. I got to cut on some wood. That was fun with some chainsaws. Used my favorite tool. And then Sunday we went to church. Matt talked about the parable of the seed sower. Kind of appropriate for an Easter. He was just kind of that idea that there's lots of seeds thrown. The goal is to be a reproducer. So good sermon. What else? Oh, I remember that because that was my devotional that morning too. It was interesting. Maybe God's trying to tell me I'm not the right seed right now. What else? That was it. Hung out with my mom had. So we're at a weird transition. I mean, all families go through this, right? But my grandparents have now all passed away. And so all the families now have their own grandparents, who are my aunt and uncles. And so we're going through that transition of all the families trying to figure out what to do there.
Yeah.
Because modern families, or this next generation of families, is not nearly as big as the last one. So all of the big parties that we remember can't happen if we just stick to our family, right? Because Because my mom had like 5, right? Well, whatever. I'm just going to say it because nobody's listening. But my mom had 5 siblings. My dad had 5-ish siblings. And so,
Jim's
like holidays.
relatives, if he gets this wrong, get in the comments.
Yeah. Get back to me.
Because all of your relatives would definitely know what get in the comments means.
Hey, my mom's a fan.
One of my first.
So,
One of my first. And best, if I don't say so
yeah.
myself.
Yeah, so all of those big holidays are kind of fading away because nobody has those size families anymore. Well, only a few of my cousins have those size families, and they're all really young now. So,
well, but there's not that. You guys aren't part of the.
And we're not part of that circle.
The orbit of, hey, we got to get together as a family, because that's also another whole other, because it's your cousins, but they're married to people who have their family, and so they have that whole orbit shift somewhere else, because you don't have that one, grandma, grandpa that's like, hey, we all here for them, because now you don't have that thing that calls you all together.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. I mean, what was cool about this Easter is some of my mom's side of the family and some of my dad's side of the family all came to my mom's house, so it was like a big, we had 20-something people there.
Okay.
So it was a lot of people, but it was just fun. And there might have only been 1 or 2 people that didn't know the majority of people that, the other side of the family, because my parents have been married for long enough that their families have been intermixed a bunch. Or at least met, or whatever. And we all went to the same church growing up, so everybody knows who everybody is, kind of. But that was Easter.
Okay.
That was Easter? Yeah. Today's my wife's birthday.
Happy birthday.
So she is now 1 day older than yesterday.
But why is she?
Yeah. It's just how time works, buddy.
But why?
And then, so I'm here instead of with her because she was like, I'm gardening all evening long. I was like, sweet. You garden all evening long. And I did some things that she wanted me to do, and then I left.
You took the day off, and you took her to lunch. So I'm gonna.
Yeah. I spent the day.
You didn't just.
Her birthday is
like,
me getting in the car and doing whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
That's her birthday.
You didn't just be like, deuces, I'm out of here. I'm gonna do a podcast.
She gave me permission to leave. She told me last week. She said, "Yeah, you can go. I'm gonna be gardening, and I don't want you around." So that's
marriage for you, friends.
That's marriage for you. There's things you just want to do by yourself. And there's things your spouse wants you to do by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great for you. I want you to do that. Yeah, and I don't want to be around. You're right. Yeah.
So I just support her in leaving.
Yeah.
So that's how I left.
Well, Friday night, the Friday after Good Friday, Callie went to support some of her students. She went to a dance recital, which I did not go to. I had school. I still wouldn't have gone if I didn't have school, but I had school, so I had a built-in excuse. But I was just like, I'm glad for you. Go do that. Go do that thing.
Go watch kids dance terribly.
Mm-hmm. Support them. Love them. It's great for you. But she does not ask me to go. Every now and then she's like, do you want to go to this thing? And I'm like, no, I do not. She's like, I'm just checking in case you change your mind. Mm-hmm. But Sunday, I think it's Sunday. It might not be maybe next Sunday, but I think it's this Sunday. She's going to go watch Grease. The local production of Grease.
That sounds terrible.
Agreed, but I'm not invited.
Okay. Well, there's a plus.
She's going with a friend, and I think she actually invited your wife. And I don't know if she's going to go or not. So I don't know if it's this Sunday or the next Sunday. But it's like, I'm glad you could go do that. I don't want to do that.
It does
I'm
sound
out
awful.
on that. So,
I don't even think I liked the movie. I
um,
don't know if I've seen the movie, actually.
yeah,
I maybe have seen clips.
I've definitely seen clips. I don't know that I've ever seen the whole thing all the way through.
I feel like it's a movie that I walk into the living room, and if my wife is watching it, or was watching it, it's not a regular thing that's on our TV. But
Yeah.
if it was, I looked at it and went, I'm going to go do something else.
I mean, I don't dislike musical things. So, I don't dislike musicals. I don't have any particular bend to want to watch them more, but Callie and I will go to Branson. We'll go see some shows, and it's not terrible. I don't mind being so that. In fact, we're trying to put together our vacation with my family in July. It looks like we're headed to Pennsylvania. We're gonna go to Gettysburg.
Okay.
And there's also a Sight and Sound Theater. So Callie and I have been to the Sight and Sound Theater in Branson twice. We've seen Jesus there and Esther, both musical productions, theatrical productions, stuff like that. And there's a Sight and Sound Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we've finally kind of gotten all the dates to work out with my family and my calendar and Callie's calendar, and we wanted to go, and we looked on the calendar, and the Sight and Sound Theater is booked until October. It's sold out. So
Bummer.
they are doing Noah, so not Moses but Noah.
Okay.
Big bearded dude.
Both involve water also.
Yeah, that's true. So that would be kind of it would be a very musical theater type thing that, but it's pretty cool. But it's sold out. But they also are like, well, check back. Sometimes blocks of tickets become available. So
Right.
I think Callie's been checking every day because she would really like to go to that. But it just doesn't work out. I mean, we're not going to wait to go on vacation until October because that doesn't work because Callie's back at work and all that kind of stuff. And so we're like, well, we'll go see some other things. Callie's never been to Pennsylvania as a state. I've really only been there one time, but that was when I went and collected. You were in India, or the South America. I don't know, one of those two. Graham and I drove over in one night.
Okay.
And one night, and picked up the mobile home.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that. I mean, I wasn't around, but...
No, you were not there.
I remember that happening.
That did happen.
I remember the stories.
We got to Pennsylvania to get the place to pick it up at 8 o'clock at night. We figured out how to... we just put a fake license on it because the guy was like... Because Graham was like, oh, we need to be legal. And the guy's like, which license plate do you want?
Yeah.
Because it had been sitting on his property for a long time and hadn't moved, and it was going to go sit on camp forever until it died.
It did die pretty fast.
Pretty
impressive. How?
But it worked for the time that it needed to work.
Sure it did.
Sure. Some of the time it needed to work. So, but we had
the right person living in it.
Yeah.
Who understood.
This is what it is.
That's what it is.
We barely wired the license plate on the back, and then we went and we went to one of the last, maybe one of the only Kmart's I know that exist, but an existing Kmart, and they had a brake light because our brake light was out in the back of the trailer, because trailer home, whatever.
Yeah.
And we put that in and it worked. And so, thanks, Big K.
There you go. Only experience.
That was Pennsylvania. I stayed there less than, literally 8 hours of driving through there and driving out of there.
Yeah, that's my experience with. Well, I guess I can't say the whole state of Texas because I've been to Texas a couple times.
Yeah.
But, wherever Chad moved back to. I forgot the town that he.
He moved outside of Houston, Columbus, or what was it?
No, it wasn't Columbus.
What was it called?
That's not familiar.
H.
Hastings?
No, Haskell. No, not Haskell. It's H something.
It does start with an H. That does
Yeah.
sound. And we did find out that Dairy Queen hamburgers
Oh yeah.
are officially bigger
Yeah.
in Texas.
Yes.
Like it's a legit hamburger.
Yes.
Like it's not this Midwest like patty thing that's just barely thicker than some cardboard. It's a legit hamburger. That is what we found out.
Yes.
And surprise, we had vehicle issues on the way back.
And they serve food all year round and don't just work half a year.
Yeah. Dairy Queen, it's like a legit like restaurant. Like it's not like the Midwest, like just kind of get your food at a window.
Yeah.
And that's your only option.
Yeah.
It's a legit like sit down restaurant.
So yeah, so
Cool.
musicals.
All right. Musicals.
That's gonna be so I'm gonna take
Traveling.
a vacation. So we're gonna go do the Civil War battlefield of Gettysburg. But yeah, there's just some things that it's okay. Callie and I this Saturday, Callie and I will go watch the Peoria City Football Club play soccer. We'll do it together. We both like doing that. So there's things we do together, but then there's other things that I'm happy to let her do by herself.
There you go.
And she's happy to let me do things by myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they call
Marriage
they
tips.
call
Are
it
you?
football club, huh?
Yeah.
They don't just call it a soccer club. They're going full. Americans are wrong. Let's call it football.
Most of
I unintentionally took a dig at Americans this Saturday when we were facilitating.
So it's interesting. It's not interesting. I said it's interesting, but usually when somebody says it's interesting, what they mean is if you care at all about the thing you're talking about.
Pretend like you actually care about this.
So Jim, it's interesting that you would mention that because the main soccer league in the United States is called MLS, so Major League Soccer. But a lot of European-owned teams have actually either bought out or co-sponsor some of those teams. So, like LA Galaxy is they've been in the MLS forever. That's one of the original. I think they're like 8 teams in the original MLS. But now LA also has an FC. They have a football club because they've got backers from Europe, and so that's what they like. They don't call them teams in like Europe leagues or like in the Premier Leagues. They're football clubs, and so it has made its way over, and we're becoming more like the rest of the world than the rest of the world becoming like us.
Well, that's good.
So it's football and not
There's
soccer.
things about America that we want to die.
Calling it soccer is one of those things.
I don't mind soccer. Yeah, soccer can go. That's one of the lighter ones.
But
maybe this whole never mind. I won't get it.
So I will let you know.
Yeah.
With all the things going on in the world right now, we will not be increasing the amount we charge for this podcast due to tariffs. We are going to eat any cost.
Yeah.
That's
our commitment to you.
We will not raise the prices of this podcast.
We will tariffs.
We are for you. But it's so yeah.
But we are trying our hardest to fire everyone we know.
Only to learn that Oh, we
just
need,
just because we want to rebuild stuff.
only
Why not?
only
Like,
to learn
that's-
that we actually needed those people.
Yeah, yeah.
So now we
We
gotta
want
get
to
them to
fire
come
and
back.
rehire. I mean,
Isn't that how you fix your truck, right? Like you just take out parts until it stops working, and then you're like, oh, I guess that part's necessary, and put it back, and then
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's,
all right.
Hey, there's a whole bunch of extras in my truck. I mean, clock, lights. Who needs any of that stuff?
Windshield wipers.
Yeah, windshield wipers.
It's for the weak, my friend.
I know.
Those are for the
Just-
weak.
Just take them all out.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what's intriguing and almost interesting to some people is that there is a secondary league in the United States called the USL.
Are we still talking about soccer?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay.
And
Alright.
so one of the cool things about European soccer, that European football, I guess I should say, they don't call it soccer, is that you have the ability to start as an amateur team, basically, and if you continue to win your competitions, the divisions that you're in, you eventually can make it to the top tier.
Oh, okay.
So, kind of famously, I know this is probably not going to hit you, but there might be a
Somebody?
football fan out there that's tuning in.
Uh-huh.
Ryan Reynolds and one of the guys from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who his name I can't remember, bought into ownership of Wrexham AFC, which is a team in England, and they have gone from, I think they were on the 4th level, so I think there's 6 total levels. They were on the 4th level, and now they're on the 2nd level. They just won. And so if they win this next season coming up, football seasons in England go from August to May, so the season is ending right now. If they win the next season, they'll actually be in the top tier. So they would have started with, so it would be like baseball has minor leagues, like Peoria Chiefs. It would be like the
Sure.
Peoria Chiefs being so good that they won their way into playing in the MLB. Like
That's
that.
cool. I like that.
So there seems to be with the USL, which is what the Peoria Football Club is a part of. So the USL has 3, has the top tier, a middle tier, and the lowest tier. And Peoria is in the lowest tier because they only play a short schedule and it's semi-pro. They don't. I think they do get some, but they're still college athletes and they're able to do stuff and that kind of stuff. So, but in like 2028, maybe unofficially, but that's what they're shooting for, is to create that kind of league where eventually, if Peoria, because last year Peoria got 2nd place in the league, they could move up and could even eventually become. Now there are things that so part of the issue is like, if say like you're in England, if you're part of the Premier League, which is the top level, there is the fact that you pay players millions and millions of dollars to play for you because
Sure.
they're the best of the best, and
Right.
and you have these huge stadiums, and so like there is you have to have so that would be an interesting thing to see with these American how we do this, because like right now Peoria plays at Bradley's field, which we packed out for the playoffs this past summer. It was awesome. If you don't go to Peoria, you should go see Peoria play soccer. It's really fun. But there's no parking, and so like if you were going to continue to go up, like you'd have to like be building stadiums. You'd have to, like, there's infrastructure that you have to
Right.
you also
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
develop.
yeah.
And so. But it's this cool kind of thing where you could start with your hometown team could be an amateur or semi-pro team, and eventually make its way to a professional team, and you
Sure.
could be the fans that go with it. And that's kind of one of the cool things about like European soccer, is that you just have these people who are diehard fans, and they like that's your team. You don't switch teams, like and you have your rivalries, and that's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
a lot of times you're born into it and all that kind of stuff, which we don't really have a lot of that in the United States. But I like it.
I mean, we have that in other. I mean, not the moving up stuff, but we have the fandom
Yeah, we do a little bit.
football and stuff.
We do a little
other
bit.
sports.
There. I think there's another. It's to another level because it's like your city. It's just Yeah, and because I think the deal is that because England is so compact compared to the United States, you have all of these soccer teams, football teams stuffed into these Manchester has two, and they are in each other's turf. It's like there is like this really big strong rivalry that maybe you just don't get. I don't know. I mean, I guess you have like it's like like in football they have American football. You have like the New York Giants and the New York Jets, but they don't even really play in the same place. They're not really. They're one's New Jersey. They just call them the New York. I mean, it just has a different feel to it. Now, I mean, you still have some fans that go pretty crazy, but there's just another level. I don't know. Maybe football fans out there American football fans could prove me wrong. It's kind of a mix between college and pro. Like if you took a lot of the pageantry of college football and translated that into the pro, like all the people, like I grew up in Texas and Texas A&M had a very strict way to cheer at football games. They don't have cheerleaders. Texas A&M has male yell leaders, and you learn all the yells to do. You practice them, and you do them all together, and you don't sit down while the game is going. Okay. So if you're in the student section at Texas A&M, at least this is the way it was. Maybe it's not that way anymore.
That's pretty much all student sections. I think there's a lot of them like that.
But like militantly enforced.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because A&M is also like Marine Corps school, and so like the yell leaders are all kind of drill sergeants and like, but militantly, like if you're in the like we're all gonna stand for So and then they have these specific yells that they go through and that they've all learned, and so it's an interesting phenomenon. And so it's a little bit like that, but you take that kind of like pageantry and intensity and then put that into like professional level. So like imagine like all the fans at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium standing and singing and saying the same cheers at the same time or singing a song that's not, Sweet Caroline, but like that's like the like that massive amount of people. And so it's kind of a scale kind of thing that I feel like we don't necessarily have. I think we have aspects, but I don't think we have the same thing. And so that's why I've always been intrigued by football in Europe and in England and places like that, because it's such a cultural thing that we have similar things here in America, but I don't think we have the same level. Man, and I nerded out on. There you go. I nerded out on football for you.
There you go. You told me all about soccer.
Would you like to talk about woodworking now, or
no?
Okay.
No. No, I don't.
You see, the thing about woodworking.
Yeah.
What's interesting about working with wood?
Nothing. Nothing on a podcast. I listen to a few woodworking podcasts, and guess what? They're not interesting. I mean, yeah. All
right. But you have been listening to. You wanted to talk about this. We'll swing into this. Well, you said you might want to talk about it. This was our preparation time, when we hash things out.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted to talk, speaking of podcast, like,
okay.
You've been enjoying the Holy, we
Holy
mentioned
Post.
earlier, but the Holy Post.
Yeah. Holy Post, yeah. The
Holy
Post podcast.
I haven't listened to a podcast in a month. 2 months. I've read one book. I'll tell you that book here in a minute, but Holy Post, give me the rundown. Why should I listen to the Holy Post podcast?
I don't care. I'm not invested.
Wow, that is great podcasting.
You want me to be, you want me to advocate for it. Okay, so...
Why do you enjoy... What I mean is, what have you found enjoyable
why should you listen to the Holy Post?
Why would I care what you listen to?
I don't care.
Whatever.
Well, whatever. You listen to whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like I was... Holy Post.
Holy Post.
Yeah, this is our opportunity to get more views too.
Yeah.
People searching.
Yeah.
Can you search what's talked about in a podcast? I don't even know if that's.
100%. You can. I'm sure that Google actually listens to it and like parses it out for searches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Well, I mean, I'll summarize. So the guy in charge is the creator of VeggieTales. The original creator of VeggieTales. He has since bowed out and doesn't do that anymore, I believe.
Right.
But and then he hosts with two other people, and I just appreciate it's a Christian perspective on politics that I enjoy, and I enjoy it because it's not one side or the other politically is right. It's how do we as believers approach politics. And so I just think it's a very informative and appropriate perspective. I will prep with they are pretty mad at Trump. So if you're a Trump fan, you just gotta have to maybe tone it back a little bit and give it grace and listen, because their complaints I believe are valid of some of the ways that Trump has behaved and policies that he's put in perspective or put in place, but it's not. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be very one-sided. It's very much how do we process things that are happening today in a Christian perspective. So, Holy Post, that's what it is.
Yeah. Phil Vischer is the
Phil
the guy,
Vischer, yes, that's his name.
that did VeggieTales, and then Sky Jathani.
Sky Justani, and then Caitlin is their third host.
Caitlin Scheiss.
Yeah. I think they all have their own.
And Esau McCauley also sometimes hosts.
Yeah, so I think they all have their own podcasts. Or, I don't know about Phil Vischer, what he's doing, but...
I think he does the Holy Post.
He does the Holy Post, but I think they all... Or the two other hosts also have... If you listen to Spotify, they'll start coming up.
Yeah.
On their other podcasts, they'll start coming up. That's what Spotify does, or algorithms do. So, but it's a good one. I like it because it's not. I'm always trying to find good, balanced political podcast. I should say, I call it a political podcast because they do talk about politics regularly. But it's not the focus. The focus is how do we as believers move forward or navigate this American democracy that we live in that can kind of get confusing, especially when politics are king in our country, and it's hard to have conversations, like real conversations with people. So, I don't know, it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're about an hour. So kind of a longer one, I guess. I like doing longer things. I listen.
Compared to ours, they got some. They need to.
Yeah, you gotta step it up.
They need to grow.
They gotta step it up, bro.
They probably also edit theirs and plan them out, which is boring.
That's true. Phil Vischer likes to bring up butt news on occasion, which is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. Again, I like it because it's not necessarily a trash on Trump kind of podcast, and it's not like Trump is
rally
doing everything.
It's not a Trump rally. Yeah.
Podcast. Yeah. It's a Christian first. Let's talk about how that influences how we should view politics.
Yeah.
which I appreciate because I would like to get back. I guess this is what we were kind of talking about before.
Yeah.
Is I would like to get back to an American society that can have conversations without 100% acknowledging everything about that side. And I think one of the things that has happened to Christianity, American society, is we've lost sight of how to do that. And I think one of the benefits of Christianity, one of the benefits we as believers and can bring to that is the idea that the gospel is central. The gospel is the thing that is central and unnegotiable. But all of our other theologies, while important, are negotiable. And that's okay. You don't have to believe my process of baptism for me to acknowledge that you're saved. And I think we've lost sight of that kind of arguing. We hear things like, oh, you're a sprinkler. And we instantly think other team.
Right.
And I think that's encroached on all aspects. Politics the same. Oh, you believe you're a pro-choice. Oh, you're other team then.
Right.
Or, whatever. Pick your topic.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're other team instead of continuing to have a conversation. So, anyway, I don't know how I got there, but that's what I appreciate about that podcast. Maybe that's what it kind of gets me thinking about.
So the question, that I have for you, now that we've got all that other stuff out of the way,
Okay.
Thankfully,
Okay.
all that other fluff.
We got fluff out of the way.
Yeah, we got that
down
out
to
of
the
the
rocks,
way.
man.
Because you were talking about this a little bit about 2 Peter, First
Second Peter.
Second Peter.
2 Peter 1.
Mhm.
Sure.
How? So this is a question that's been stuck in my head, so I'm going to ask it of you.
Okay.
How do you separate the noise of your culture when attempting and desiring to live like Jesus in today's world? And let me give you kind of the some of my ground level thoughts.
Okay. Good.
Just to establish what I'm trying to say, because that's
Sure.
not a great question, but so here's the thing that I learned in studying. I huge nerd. I get it. That's fine. That's just what I am. I like to learn things. I like to study things. And it has occurred to me, because I'm slow, apparently, but we often say that we want people to be unbiased or things to be unbiased. And the truth is that none of us are able to live without bias. We all have a preconceived, we have a developed and a conception of how the world should work, how we think the world should work, and this is formed by how the world has worked, or hasn't worked. So knowing that we have a bias that we come to, we can't say that we're unbiased. Usually when we use that phrase, we're like, oh, hey, I'm looking for an unbiased opinion. What we're saying is we're looking for somebody who hasn't been exposed to the current question, but that person still has biases. Like they still have preconceptions. We have to prejudge. That's, I was just talking about with the brain. That's just what our brains do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a negative thing. It's not even a wrong thing. We that's how, if we had to, if every time you came to a situation and your brain had to be like, I have no prior information about this situation, and I'm going to have to try to think through this situation, we would all be dead because we wouldn't know how to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains instead have very quickly been like, I need to make some generalizations. I need to understand fire bad. You know, like, and so when I see fire, part of my brain is like, fire bad. Now, do I understand it more? Yes. And do I understand that it's also good to cook things and heat things? Yes. But there is a bias, that the preconceived notion that develops, like fire bad. And so because we can't be without bias, how do we, A, recognize our bias, and then B, how do we determine the best way to follow Jesus, knowing that we're biased, that we have a bias, that we have some preconceived conceptions that I believe God renews and changes in us. But you were talking about, so that's why I want to lead into what you were talking about. It just, to me, it lined up, because I've been thinking about this whole bias thing, because one of the things that we try to put into data, and so we'll get back to my question. I'll explain a little bit more. That way, it's a little bit more context. One of the things that we try to put into data or onto data is like, well, it's unbiased. It's just calculations, so there's no bias, which is not true, because informing the algorithms and AI and all that kind of things, and all like what makes it work, there have been assumptions that have been made. There's been assumptions that have been built in. It works because it makes connections between things, and sometimes we don't even know why. The AI makes that connection. We're just like, we've trained it to make connections. Sometimes we don't know why it makes that connections, and so like when we can't understanding, or sometimes it'll make a connection, or like our brains. Sometimes the AI will just make something up, and they call it hallucinating, because the AI has made some kind of connections, and somewhere in those connections they got it wrong, but they don't know how to but they've made it up. It's now their reality, and you actually have to go in and fix some of that stuff. But so we, like, data is not unbiased either. And so you can't hide behind that. I think we have like, oh, this decision we're making is based on the data. Great. Well, there's so many ways that bias can be built into data. We have to understand that. And so because then also that crosses over to me into, well, how do I follow Jesus knowing that I have bias in some of the things that you were talking about? So with like, how do we know what it looks like to follow Jesus, and what, what 2 Peter says. And I was like, wow, we've been thinking about the same thing. So there's my lead up, very long lead up to this discussion, but just your thoughts, and you can take it any way you want to go, but that's what I like we know there's certain conceptions or preconceptions or even wrong conceptions I have about what it looks like to follow Christ, because I live in this culture, because I have to have bias. I can't not have bias. So what does it look like to follow Christ, and what is 2 Peter first verse, 2 Peter, the first chapter of 2 Peter, I think has some things to say.
Yeah. So I think wow, where to start? I like the question because I like the question because I gotcha.
I'm coming. I get you refill. Get the coffee flowing.
Thanks. I like the question because it's a cultural self-perspective. I don't even know if that's right. I don't know how to define that. So one of the things I enjoy doing is contemplation. I like to think about some of the deeper things in my life, and so the question of bias. How do we know? What do we do with it? I think that's a very important question to start asking. Because I think it's through that bias, through those bias, that you'll start to discover what part of culture Christ is trying to redeem and what part of culture Christ is trying to get rid of. And so, for example, I do believe we live in one of the best countries in the world. I do believe that because of the freedoms that we have and the government that we have that has provided for us those freedoms, because of the way that our society and our culture has organized its wealth, we are reaping benefits that are awesome. We have opportunity to sit here and freely talk about whatever we want to talk about. A, because nobody listens to us, and B, because we live in the country that we live in.
Yeah.
I also I am able to do the job that I have because I'm doing it in and I'm part of arguably the wealthiest society the world has ever known. And so there's benefits to our culture, and I know that one got really specific and personal, but what I'm saying is I think those bias are really important to acknowledge of, okay, so God has, I mean, if he's here in this culture, then what does that mean? And I would argue that is where you start seeing our faith start living out. And so maybe that's where it connects to. So I guess because I don't like just talking about a verse without reading it, maybe we should read. So it's 2 Peter 1, and like I was saying, we just talked this morning about it a little bit, and I've been thinking about it prior to that a little bit. So 2 Peter 1, 5, well, I'll start at 5 and read some. In view of all of this, make every effort to respond to God's promises. Supplement your faith with generous provision of moral excellence, and moral excellence with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with patient endurance. Patient endurance with godliness, godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love for everyone. The more you grow like this, the more productive and useful you will be in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. And I think how that connects to what we're talking about is the idea that it starts with supplement your faith with. So it gives us a list of, yet another list that we get in the New Testament that there are no rules or regulations against, because we all know that those are the good things. Right? The New Testament is full of those lists.
Right.
Paul even says at one point, there are no laws against these things because we all know that these are the good things.
Right.
So do them abundantly, exceedingly well is what he's advocating for. Here in Peter, this list of stuff that to supplement your faith, that's arguably in James's words, that's the works side of your faith. you can say you have faith in God, and you can say you trust that God is going to work it out. You can say you get those things. But this is the working out of it. Moral excellence, knowledge, self-control. I mean, that list is awesome. And so if we parse out our culture through those lenses, how can I be part of my culture and morally excellent? That gets rid of a whole subsection of our culture that is just gross. But it doesn't get rid of all of it. Knowledge, self-control, you can read this list, you can see all of those things in our culture. We all cheer for the hero that is morally excellent. All of our education is based on knowledge and knowing more, and how do we all every I mean, we were just talking about sports, self-control, pick your sport and self-control and that whole. So I think that's how we start to evaluate all of that stuff. I mean, like, as we evaluate how do we move forward in our culture, if moving forward in my culture is picking a political side, I don't read that at all in the New Testament. I think as a believer, I don't see either political side as the solution. And so, that's. And then we were talking about bias. That one gets pretty hard, because how do you? I think it's important to acknowledge your bias, but then truth is still truth. So on one hand, you have to say, well, this is how I got to this truth, and I have to acknowledge all the biases that I have getting to that truth. But it's that same idea of somebody else can still arrive at that same truth with other biases.
Sure. Yeah, I think, and this is where I think like we've really pushed bias into a poor category, to make it seem like it's immoral to have bias. That again, we would say, oh, you need to be unbiased. You don't need to have bias, but we can't. There's no way to not have bias. Like with the way that our whole brain works, the way that our whole world works, like we live with I love puzzles. Obviously, I love escape rooms. I love making the connections that. Like I love data, and that's like one of the things is to look at all of the things that seem disconnected. Find the connection.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains do that automatically. If you are, this is the whole man. I don't want to get too deep into philosophy here because I don't even remember all the details. But this is the whole thing. Like, if you're in, I think it's Socrates. He has this cave, this illustration of this cave where if there's people who are hanging upside down and they are looking at a back wall, and there are humans who walk in front of a flame that throws this huge shadow up on the wall, and they hear those, and they hear the humans behind them speaking, they will assign their voices that they will actually think the shadow people are the people, because that's all they can see.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't, that's our brains are going to put that together. If you touch something that's hot and you go, that's bad, like that's pain. If something gives me pain, we usually go, like it's part of our response system. Oh, touching fire brings pain. Don't touch fire. Mm. Like you have, like, that's just, your brain puts together those connections because it has to. That's the only way it can survive. So naturally we're going to have that. I think the danger, I guess, that I would push for is not that you would be biased, but it would be that you never stop to question the biases that you have, or that you can't, or like you just can't question. Like, I agree with you. I do think that we live in the greatest country, as far as what I've experienced, but I'm biased because I've never actually lived in a different country, and there are things that I could say that I know I wouldn't like. Mm-hmm. Like if I lived in a country that arrested people and tortured them for following Jesus, would not be my first place to say, oh, let's go live there. I'd love to live there, but God might call me to live there. But like, I could say that if we're saying, like, if we're making a list of countries and being like, well, this one does this, just maybe not even Christians, but just random people, just drags them in the streets and beats them, or I can live in America where that mostly doesn't happen. Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't happen in the circles we roll.
Right. So I would say, yeah, America is better, but also that's my experience, and so that's my bias, and so, like, to talk about even just like material things and wealth and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'm able to create this podcast. I mean, we're not even. We're mid-class, low mid-class at best, but I'm still able to do something like have the technology to make a podcast. But if you ask somebody in a non-capitalistic, consumeristic world, and they're like, and you go, hey, how are you happy you don't have any stuff? And they'd be like, you guys can't even understand the freedom I have. Mm-hmm. That's the old story of, like, I have freedom you'll never understand, and I forget who tells it. It might be Mark Buchanan, it might be Erwin McManus, it might be one of the other people that I read that I can't, Dallas Willard, I can't keep them all straight. But it's just like, they go into Africa and just talking about how I have this freedom because I'm not tied down to stuff. Like, I don't have a house to worry about. I don't have all this stuff, like we have to lock our doors and all that kind of stuff. And so not there's anything necessarily inherently evil or wrong with that, but there is a bias that says this is better, but people who lived a different way can also be like, no, I've experienced the better way. The better way is to have nothing to that, and I mean, you have people like what's his name, John Mark McMillan, or John, what's the guy up in that wrote the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, but he also talks about, like, getting rid of stuff.
The Hurry guy, Mark Comer.
Yes, John Mark Comer.
Yeah. I didn't read the Hurry one. I read the other one. One of his other ones.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, he talks about the elimination of stuff, and like how, when Jesus says, at work you're going through 2 Peter, we're going through a Bible study by John Mark Comer on the elimination of hurry, and this morning it was like, when Jesus says to go and sell all your possessions and give to the poor, he was like, that wasn't like a one-time thing. Like, Jesus, the tense of it is like, be a seller, be a giver, like as you live your life. Like, it wasn't like, and I think we think of it as just like this one-time thing of like, oh, well, do I just have to sell my stuff and just go live poor? And it was like, no, It's like, be someone who, yeah, sure, you can collect stuff, but then be someone who's also generous, and so you give that away, and so then you don't have the ownership that stuff has over you that we struggle so much with in our culture, because we're like, these are things are good and they're not bad, but somebody from a different culture or a different perspective might even be able to be like, yeah, no, it's good. You guys have too much stuff. And like, the quote that was, I thought, interesting, that he said today, and I don't know where he got his stats, so don't quote me on it, but he was like, the average household in America has like 300,000 things in it. And I was just like, oh, looking around my house going, I don't think I'm average. I mean, but, and he made the point that, people who have 2-car garages, most of them can't park their car in either garages because they have so much stuff that they've overflowed into their garage. And so there is it's great in a lot of ways, and there's nothing wrong with having stuff, but does it get in the way of following Jesus? Does that cultural bias, can it get in the way? Again, not a call for we all ought to go live in poverty, but I think it's an interesting question to say, do I miss out on some parts of faith as a mature follower of Jesus? As I look at, I want to follow closer to Jesus every day and be more like him, and I look at things like in the Gospels where they say, Jesus, teach us how to pray, and Jesus says, this is how you pray: God, give me my daily bread. And then think through that, am I living daily bread life? Do I really pray that? Do I really actually believe that? And we had a funny conversation a little bit about this, but just talking about no, I kind of want I want more. I don't, I find that prayer hard.
Yeah.
Especially in the season that I live in now, of just how hard it is to say what you have is enough for today. And that's not just material stuff either. I mean, I just it's not like, hey, I just wish I had more money. Although if people want to send me money, please go ahead. But I mean,
yeah.
But also no, please don't. Not just money, but job security, health. If you just faith that I'm doing the right thing, all of that. If you distill that back down to what Jesus God, just give me what I need for today. That feels very minimal and restrictive because I want more. And culturally, I think there's some more of that of you shouldn't just live day to day. It's almost seen as irresponsible to live day to day. You ought to have a plan. You ought to have savings. You ought to have if you're not doing those things, then you're being a wastrel, and then you go, and then it's because Proverbs says, don't be a fool, and
Sure.
But that's so strongly built in our culture, and I wonder if I don't miss some things, and I'll just bring it to me, because I won't put my burdens on anybody else, but that I don't miss some things because I don't know how to give full surrender to I have enough for today. Not even talking about money. I mean, money is always a concern because that's what makes this world goes round. But not even just saying that about money, but I have enough understanding of my future. I have enough understanding of my relationships. I have enough understanding of my calling and what I'm doing. And I've got enough affirmation, wholly from God. It's you, God, I want to know, the why, right? To me, that's why it's I struggle. I didn't, tying it all together. Who knew? But that why, I think I struggle with that because I think it is that direct thing of where Jesus is just God, give me enough for today. and let me not fall into temptation to want more, to sin, to do the things that move beyond what you're doing, that your will might be done,
Hmm.
and that's enough.
Hmm.
And and so that's what's been, I think, rattling around. I mean, again, I've not been able to stop and think for a while, so
Mhm.
this is a lot of stuff that's coming through just over the last couple of weeks of just like that idea of, because of the culture that I live in, I don't understand that mindset very well.
Hmm.
My bias is not to that. Rarely do I see myself as blessed if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or if I don't really know what's going to happen. Like,
But there again, so that's. I mean, that's one of those evaluation things as a believer that we have to make sure. It's one of those faith steps. So if I believe that my financial security is attached to my following Jesus, I've drastically misunderstood what he's talking about. And so my financial security is attached to actions and pursuits that I decide in me. And so I think this is the hardest thing, and maybe this is why our culture is going down the road that it's going, that the stuff of this world is that shadow that you were talking about
right,
in the cave shadow.
right.
Socrates, Pluto.
Socrates. Yeah, he is Pluto. I don't know. Pluto's cave?
I don't remember.
Ugh.
But one of those guys.
Somebody in the comments let us know.
Yeah, because we care. But we can get so distracted by that stuff, and we get because it does have consequences. The actions that I take, the career path that I take, the political movements that I support, all of that stuff has genuine impact on the world. It changes my life. If we're talking about career paths, it changes potentially the longevity family stuff. I mean, if I choose a career path that puts my kids in a place where they never have to work again, then it opens up possibilities for them in different ways.
Plato. It's Plato's cave.
Plato's cave, yeah. So, but I think we get distracted a lot of times by those things.
Yeah.
And so I think as we evaluate bias, as we try and think through perspective, my paycheck, I was at a lunch and somebody said, let me read you a text. This is my paycheck for like the month. And he read a thank you text from somebody that was just thanking him for doing the ministry that he did.
Yeah.
And it impacted this person enough that it had a whole trajectory shift. And the guy was like, that's the kind of paycheck I want.
Yeah.
And so if you're able, if you're, I would argue that if you're pursuing Christ and you're genuinely trying to figure out what the Holy Spirit is doing in your heart, He allows you to see those biases that you have and to acknowledge them. And I think you can do that without the Holy Spirit. I think you can.
You can take an inventory, sure. People do it all the time.
Yeah, you can take
a mental. You can take a mental inventory to
Right.
to plumb out your own what you see as your biases.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just did a 17-minute presentation on part of that was understanding your bias, so you can understand what the story is you're going to tell with data,
Mm-hmm.
and so that you're telling a true story, a more true story, and so, but yeah, so it's a human thing you can certainly do. I think, and I have been reading. So I've been going with a friend for the millionth time. I've been reading through The Barbarian Way, and it.
It's your yearly go through. Okay.
For the millionth time.
I mean, it's a good book. I'm not
Oh,
trashing
yeah.
that at all.
No, I'm discipling this guy, and we're working through it together, and it's always John the Baptist. It is like this because it's just this juxtaposition. John the Baptist baptized Jesus. He experiences with no one else like what he experiences. He's got the dove comes down, this thunder. Whether or not John understood the voice or not, who knows? But he's like, this is different, right? And he even told his own followers, he's like, that's the Lamb of God who takes the sins away. Fast forward a couple of years, maybe even just a couple of months, but and now he's in prison, right? And he sends his disciples to say, Jesus, are you the Messiah? Because his question is, if you're the Messiah, why am I in prison? And, we know the end of the story. John eventually knows the end of the story. But, like, in the midst of that, it's like, but John, you jumped in your mother's womb when Mary, entered into the picture. You, as a baby, you knew. And yet, here he is, asking this question. Because I think there's this, it's just this place where John is like, this is not what I expected. This is not, I'm in prison. I did the right thing. I did everything right. And here I am, And so I think that I think, and we've talked about this a lot, so I don't want to rehash a lot of those things, but I think those are those type of things that because you said, if your financial security is tied to your relationship with Jesus, or Jesus is tied to your financial security, I would argue, and I'm not saying you're not arguing this, I'm just saying that what struck me is that most culturally, the answer to that would be that that's what most we've taught culturally, Christian, that it is. Follow Jesus, and you will be blessed, both spiritually and, I think, the subtext, context, whether we mean it or not, with money too. Like following Jesus, and those things will come. And then there's even some explicit that, and
yeah, I think that's hard because I do think there's a validity to He will take care of all your needs.
Your needs, but I think that we have a real struggle with what our needs are versus what our wants are, and what our because.
And I agree, but I'm saying that as somebody that has raised their support to live for the last few years.
Sure.
And so, and that's, and so I think some of that bias is unintentional. Like, I think that's why bias is so hard
Oh yeah,
to tell somebody else that they have,
yeah,
because I do want to reassure people that God is good and He will take care of your needs.
yeah,
That and for let's see. So, and that translates into a lot of different things.
yeah,
Like, and so I think in order to get to the real, so I guess I heard it described recently as, do you have an abundance perspective?
mm,
Or is everything in the world what is, and we get to trade and deal with it and hoard, and you got to protect your stuff?
a scarcity model. Mm-hmm.
Like, is it abundant or is it limited?
Mm-hmm.
And I think knowing the Creator,
Mm-hmm.
in whatever aspect that I'm in, I'm pondering, even if it's financial insecurity, or if it's, I have no idea how this next stuff is going to work out.
Yeah,
Just the instability of, I think we're afraid of the unknown a lot of times, and so if I see an unknown, I'm afraid to step in there because I don't have the resources to fix the unknown.
right.
But if I have an abundance mentality, if I know that I'm walking into that space, whatever that is, that unknown, with the Creator, I don't have to be afraid. It won't be comfortable, and it may not work out the way I want it to.
Right.
But there is a good God walking next to me,
Mm.
who has all the resources. And He's probably not going to listen to me as far as my demands. It's going to have to go the other way.
Yeah, I think that's why. Patience is one of the things on the list that we talked about from Second Peter, and I think it's hard because I think that the idea of abundance is that a little J.G. Wentworth here. It's my money. I want it now. But if it's so abundant, why does it feel so scarce?
Yeah.
In that sense, and so there's this weird. I don't say weird, but there's this molding together of there's abundance, but followers of Jesus know that there's also patience in times where that this is a time of waiting, and I think that is
time of, and think through that list.
Yeah.
A time of moral excellence,
Mm-hmm.
a time of knowledge, which so my brain is connecting this to 10 Commandments. Like, moral excellence, knowledge, the whole point of a Sabbath is for us to pause and reflect and to honor God and to think about what He has done for us so that we know that He is with us. The whole point of a Sabbath is to pause our work, to acknowledge, to show the rest of the world that I don't have to pursue this with all I have. God will make it happen, whatever that is.
Yeah. Dependence. I mean, to pause you, like, obviously it's not such a big deal for us to pause our work today because it doesn't mean the same thing. I mean,
Right.
we still should. I don't want to say that. I'm not saying
Right.
don't take a Sabbath.
Right.
But in a agrarian culture that you couldn't make up work, if you didn't get work done today, you were missing out. You were literally costing yourself by becoming idle for a full 24-hour period. You were missing out on an opportunity to perhaps produce something that's life-giving and life-changing and all the things that you need, and saying, I'm not going to do that for a day because I'm resting and relying on God. That is such a declaration. And I think we
And we skip over the remembering part. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is it said it also says remember.
Yeah.
Both times. I mean, Exodus and Deuteronomy, it says remember what the Lord is. So it's not just a day set apart to honor the Lord, whatever that means.
right.
It's a day to remember. That's part of the how to honor the Lord. Of remember the moments that God has brought you through.
Because it's costly, and it's hard for us in the moments when things are costly, when things cost. Like, that's when we get into a mindset of like, well, do I have enough?
And that's where knowledge. I mean, that's the truth part of that knowledge of.
Right.
Yeah, God really did walk me through there.
Right.
There was nothing. I was in the right space in the right time. I tried my best, and God either honored my work or scooped me out of the mire. I mean, to whatever spectrum
Right.
it is. I mean, cute. And then that self-control piece, that whole like walking through the second half of the Ten Commandments is all self-control stuff.
Don't covet.
Don't
Don't.
honor your father and mother.
Yeah.
It starts there, and then
Don't steal. Don't covet. Don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
no murder, no
Yeah.
none of that. I mean, that's all self-control stuff.
Right.
Jesus amps that up in the New Testament by saying, if you do it in your heart, you've already done it. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it really amps up the whole like introspective part of that self-control, being able to capture those thoughts early.
I think the hardest thing. So I'm gonna lead us towards wrapping this conversation up. This is what happens when we don't talk and do a podcast for this long, because it's been a long time since we've done a podcast together. Because we're already past the 2-hour mark.
Oh, wow, nice.
And it's
We're hitting Rogan lengths.
Yeah, and it's closing. It's getting close to 10 o'clock, and you got to drive home. And so
That's true.
Man, I just derailed myself. Good job. But what I think is so hard to translate is that all the things that we're talking about are meant to be lived out and practiced. And I think it's easy to know the things, to have that knowledge, and yet leave it there. I know my abundance, but I don't live it out. And I think that, and the reason, and not fully based off this conversation we've had here, but just in thinking about, how would I explain that to one of my 5th or 6th graders? And at the core of what I'd want to say is that what you know and believe should determine how you live. What you know and believe should determine how you live. I feel like we skate a line too many times, or maybe it just that what we know and believe. Sometimes we live that way, but culture also gets in the way, and it's like, oh, but that it actually makes a difference. That Christ, what Christ has done, what Christ is calling to us, is fully lived out in our actions, our words, and our thoughts, or the things that we say. I think that I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I don't think I'm like, this is not groundbreaking, like, but what I feel like I see played out culturally, because what we see in our, like, and I think that's why you like the Holy podcast, because this is some of those things, is that there actually is a way to live, and it may actually not be the cultural Christianity that has developed in America. There might be parts of it, but part of what I think, what I like, what just you talking about, 2 Peter chapter 1, is that there's actually like, Peter's actually like, hey, if you want to know what it looks like to live a godly life, here's a list, right? Here's the list. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And and I think part of it too is this, because we just pendulum swing all over the place. We always do. That's just what cultures do, right? We just go from left to right and swing back and forth. And this side was too much this way, so we're gonna swing back and be too much the other way. But we get so afraid, and I think, and you brought James up earlier, the book of James, where it's like, yeah, your faith without works is dead. And we get so afraid to be like, oh, you mean you get saved by your works? No. It's not what we're saying at all.
Mm.
But because you're saved, then there is a way to live.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a culture, and this is like this. So I'm peeling back the layers of my bias as to why this is so important to me. May not be important to anybody else. But I grew up in a culture that was, if we can get you saved and baptized, checkbox, done. Nothing. If you want to live, like, be good. Don't be a little hellion.
Mm-hmm.
Be culturally and legalistically good. But if we got you baptized, if you've said the sinner's prayer, done. Because once saved, always saved, and so. It's almost, you almost had to skate this line of being like, well, yeah, what you do is important too, but not as important. Did you say this prayer this one time? And there's just, I think,
which is ironic, because that's something that you did.
Oh, 100%.
Like, if you're not saved by your works, why would you be saved by the works of a prayer that you did?
Because that's a gift of faith that he gives to you.
Saying the prayer?
Yeah.
And what?
I didn't say it makes sense, Jim. I'm just saying that
No, I get it. And you've railed against your tradition. I mean, we all understand that our own traditions have...
Deconstructing right here.
Yeah. Well, no, let's not do that.
I can deconstruct if I want to.
You can do whatever. I don't care. Have at it. But there
what's
interesting to me is the fact that Peter is writing. So 2 Peter is written as he knows if you continue to read that chapter, he knows he's at the end of his life.
Yeah.
So this is his last words to the church. And I think what you're alluding to is the idea that our lives of faith that are lived out can get so uncomfortable and so hard and so in some some boxes that we just cannot see through. That we like the comfort of stepping back into my heart. And what I mean by that is we can point at culture, or we can point at bias, or we can point at all of the things that create that comfort for me, but it's really that heart issue of, Lord, I'm just really tired of this uncomfortable place that I'm in, and I don't trust that you're going to get me through it, and I need a moment of comfort. And that's when or I need to control something, or I need to, whatever that, however that gets you back into your own selfish heart.
Sure. Or, even at a basic level of just being like, that's nice, that all sounds nice, but that's not how the world works.
Right. And
that's really cool that you think that, and I'm glad you can live that way in your Christian camp and your little Christian world, but that's not how my world works.
Right.
Like, Jesus doesn't live in my world, and which is not true, but just as another example of, like, I'm tired.
Right.
Or
I'm in this dark box.
Yeah.
And I don't see your Jesus helping me at all.
Or I'm not even tired. It's like, my reality is that it's not even that's not in reality. You guys are talking about something else. That's not reality. Reality is this. I think that's something very, very cultural right now, for sure. Because our culture is continuously being shaped, and of course, today's culture is being shaped online. It's being shaped in ways that I probably don't even understand, because I'm too old. And I don't get on the tic-tac. But at the core, that I think that what I feel like I want to say, I think, just to sum up a little bit, because we gotta go. We could talk a lot more. Maybe next month we will. Maybe we'll do this a little quicker. But there's a good God that walks with us, that does provide for our needs. And we can know that, we can reflect on that, and we should stop and reflect on that. But that good God is calling us to live lives that are worthy of our calling. And that's part of the reflection, is like, how then shall we live? Not just, God is blessing me, which he is, in so many ways. But how then shall I respond? And I think sometimes we let the response be the less important part, because it's different for everybody. It looks different. It can be different. It can feel different. It can be dark. It can be hard. It can be easy. All of those things. But I think I just want to go back to, we have a good God that's leading us, and we should follow. And a great place to start is 2 Peter chapter 1.
There you go. Read it. Good ending. I like it.
So, there you go, Jim. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for letting me be here.
If you guys, so good news. If you like listening to the podcast, I will likely be doing podcasting in some form or fashion here in the near future, since I am no longer doing school. Keep an eye open on things for Facebook or Instagram or Blue Sky, or what else am I on? I'm not really on Threads that much. LinkedIn, if you want to check out LinkedIn. I'll also be blogging at Patheos a lot more. So those are all things that, now that I am done with school, I'll have time to do and probably will do more of. And so just excited about that. Thank you guys for listening. We will try to do maybe a May podcast with Jim, if we can. If not, we will figure something out in June or July, or we'll definitely catch back up in August. If you guys have any questions, thoughts, additions, let me know. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed month or week or year whenever we come back.